join. And it is ready for you.
Okay, so I just have a question before we get started. So were you guys doing virtual snack and learns before the pandemic?
No, we actually started these because of the pandemic. So
Okay.
we host every month we do like a lunch and learn series. So that's just more of events and things like that that are happening in the community. And then we have these smaller snack and share opportunities that are usually Mondays as needed as we kind of get more content that are a little bit more COVID specific and geared towards helping people through the pandemic process. So yeah, all new
Well,
and our kickoff for 2021. So thank you.
Can you remind me
you're-
who this audience is real quick?
Um, so the audience is a distribution list of 524 folks. They are all people who utilize our DAISY database system within the state of Iowa. So a lot of home visiting, a lot of early childhood Iowa folks. And then from there, it's kind of gotten a little bit bigger. So there are other people who have requested to join the distribution list to get the information and things like that. So you'll see folks just kind of from all over that are tapping in just to get more information regarding this.
Great. I'm going to put my email in the chat, and maybe Mandy will want to do that too. But if you need resources like printed material and things, go ahead and send me an email, and I can get things to you. And then Mandy can talk to you about the kinds of things you could reach out to her for.
Perfect.
So I was asking about the how you guys got together thing because it just seems like one very good thing that maybe has come out of the pandemic, because I bet you wouldn't have been able to meet this often with people all over Iowa before. So it's pushed us to do new and interesting things, the pandemic. But so I'm Mandy and I'm with COVID Recovery Iowa, and I'm the child and family team lead. And Barb also works for COVID Recovery Iowa. And she's the one that connected us first with the early childhood program and then with you guys. So thank you, Barb. And so I'm the child and family team lead for the whole state of Iowa. And we provide free outreach counseling services for all Iowans impacted by the pandemic, which we're all impacted by the pandemic. So we're here for all Iowans. And we provide support in areas of, if you need emotional support, we're here for you. If you need resources of any sort, we can help find those for you. We have a phone number that you can reach us at, a hotline. It's the Iowa Concern Hotline, if you're familiar with that. I'll give you all this information, but I'm just giving you a background first before I share my screen. And we have a warm line, and then you can submit a request for assistance on our website. And so the needs that people have called in with or submitted requests for assistance with have been wide and varied. So I just got this question here this week again. We are not just here for people who have had COVID. We're here for all Iowans who are struggling in any way, shape, or form because of the pandemic. And some days that's even us. And so we're here for the helpers too. And thank you for working for children during this pandemic, because I know it's been difficult to provide services in the way that we would really like to do it. So we've had to get creative. And so with this grant, it's all virtual too. So connecting with children and families and teens all virtually and trying to provide support has really led us to do a lot of unique things. And so I'm going to share my screen here. Just a little bit more background. This COVID Recovery Iowa came about through a FEMA grant that's administered by the Department of Human Services. And then I'm going to play my thing. And then there's agencies all across Iowa that receive the grant funds and actually do provide the service. So I'm with Pathways Behavioral Services, which is over in the Waterloo, Waverly. I live in Little Denver, Iowa area. And there's also the Abbey Center out of Cedar Rapids that received funding, and they take care of the warm line. So if you were to call in for assistance, you might reach them. There's also Iowa State University, which provides a lot of our egg support to our egg community. There's the University of Iowa. They provide support to our folks with disabilities. And who am I forgetting, Barb? I'm forgetting one more, but she's on mute.
Sorry, I was muted. Heartland Family Service out of Omaha.
Oh, right. How could I forget that one? And that's one of our
Good one.
biggest employers for this program is Heartland Family Services. So thank you. So yeah, so it's a big web of people involved in this, and we're just one small piece of it, Pathways, but we are the child and family team. So I think I went through all that part. We are on all kinds of platforms. I'll tell you more about that. But pre-COVID, 11% of US adults reported symptoms of anxiety and depression. And then since July of 2020, 33 to 44% of Iowans have consistently reported symptoms of anxiety and depression. So that includes people that work with children, but that also trickles down and impacts our children too. Of course, children with anxiety and depression, it might look a little different than adults, but you just kind of have to be on the lookout for a change in their behavior. Are they not wanting to go to preschool like they did before? Are they not wanting to go to childcare like they did before? Are they not eating like they did before? Are they not wanting to go to bed? So those are some of the things. It might not look like your typical anxiety and depression, but it may. And so you just have to look for that change in behavior, and is it impacting their daily ability to function and carry on with their day. And if that's the case, you can call COVID Recovery Iowa. We have some licensed mental health counselors. I'm one of those that are on staff that can assist if it's to the point of needing that. And then the other thing about children and disasters, and this is a disaster grant, and I've always have to say kudos to Karen Hyatt for thinking of the pandemic as a disaster and getting this grant in place for that, because in the past she would have established this service after maybe a flood or a tornado, which was one way of thinking, and now we have to think of this pandemic as being a disaster too. And it's similar in that you're going to want to limit kids' exposure to TV. You're going to want to try to get them into a routine as quickly as possible, whatever that might look like. It's probably going to be some sort of new routine, and it's probably going to involve still some unknowns. But if you can set some structures in place to help them have that routine every day, that's really going to be important to children's mental health. So it might be that you don't know whether their after school activities are going to be canceled or not, or whether you're going to be able to go on that trip in June, or if you're going to be able to see grandma and grandpa in a couple weeks. But if you can make sure that every day they're getting breakfast, or that you keep that bedtime routine with a book reading or whatever you might do at bedtime, if you can keep some of those routines in place, that's really helpful to kids. Oh, I think I said most of that. So yeah, there's the partners that would have helped me remember it. But Heartland Family Services, Abbey Center, Iowa State, we all have people in place working on this grant and trying to provide services to all Iowans impacted by the pandemic. It runs through June 8th, and so some of the services that I'll talk about will end June 8th, but I think the reason the grant is set out in the way that it is so that all of these places all across the state are aware of people's needs and can help. Once the grant is over, we know the needs are still out there. And so all of these fantastic agencies will continue to help and provide services to people in need. The grant is really meant to help with during disasters. A lot of times our agencies are overwhelmed filling the needs of people, and so this grant is just to help with that kind of overwhelming need. So the best way to reach us is go to our website, covidrecoveryiowa.org, and that's kind of what it looks like. So if you type it in, you want to make sure you're in the right place, that's what should come up. Iowa Warm Line is one of the lines. It's functioning from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. And then the Iowa Concern Hotline is a 24/7 line. And then we also have a Spanish line. If somebody, we just had somebody this week that needed services who spoke mainly Vietnamese, and they did a website submission. And so that's perfectly fine. We can find a translator to help in that case. So it's not limited to English and Spanish, but so anyone can reach out to us and we'll get it figured out as far as being able to speak the language and help them meet their needs. So that's our website. And from our website, you can reach all of our other services, which includes our Instagram, our Facebook page, and our YouTube channel. And we are also on Twitter. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what's on each one of those platforms, but we are trying to, everybody has their favorite way of connecting, favorite social media, and we're just trying to connect with as many people as we can so they can utilize our services. So one of the things I think this group will be most interested in is some of our parenting resources and younger child resources. And one of the things we have going on is a Facebook group that's called Parenting in a Pandemic. Every week we do a Facebook Live discussion with an expert in a field, with the opportunity for anybody that's watching it live to ask a question or make a comment that I can then relay to the person that we're having the discussion with. We've had an occupational therapist on there, a play therapist, talk about just what does play therapy look like during a pandemic. A lot of people are still choosing to do telehealth, and what does that look like, and how do you get started with services? We had an ER doctor on there talking about how he just gotten vaccinated and what that was like. We had somebody this week talking about budgeting, and we also had North Iowa Community Action on there talking about their services. But then in addition to those live sessions, we have some daily interactive things to keep parents kind of grounded and focusing on the positive and making those connections with their children. So we have a question of the day to engage with your kids with. And then we all know that activities have been quite different during the pandemic. So we are constantly posting activities on there that you can try and do during the pandemic that are, meant to be safe and socially distant. And sometimes we just run out of ideas when we're at home with our kids. And so we're a source for that too. Every Wednesday, Ben is our homeschooling guru, and he posts some tips on homework and how to get that done, whether you're a virtual schooling person or if you're in person. We have such a huge variety of ways school is being delivered across Iowa. And if somebody's struggling, he can provide resources that are very specific to a person and their needs too. So we rely on him for that, and he's been fantastic. So that's how you get to the group. You do have to join the group to see that information. And that is just to keep the conversations that happen in there, the comments that happen in there, to keep them appropriate and make sure that the people that are utilizing the group are there for the right reasons. So if you are asked, if you have to ask to join, and then I think you have to answer whether you're from Iowa or not. But that's just for everybody's safety, to filter out some of the people that shouldn't be in there. Tell Me a Story is another group that might interest you. So every day on this Facebook group, we have a new story at 10 a.m. that somebody reads. One of our COVID Recovery Iowa staff generally reads, but we have also had celebrity readers. So if you go back to one of our first celebrity readers was Ashton Kutcher. We just happened to have somebody on staff that has a connection to Ashton Kutcher, and so he was kind enough to read us a story. So you can go back and look at that. It's super funny. So if you get on there, I recommend it, because my 5-year-old especially has enjoyed that. So we've had Miss Iowa read us a story on there. Who are some? Oh, we've had the Hawkeye and UNI women's basketball coaches have read on there, and we have some in store for us coming here in February that I'm excited about. But until I get the stories in hand, I try not to tout it too much, just in case there's something that falls through. But we have some more celebrities coming up that I'm excited about too. So a new story every day at 10. And this week we're doing diversity week. So sometimes we have themes for our weeks too, just to keep things interesting. So we're doing celebrating diversity with our stories on there. We'll do some bedtime stories for 1 week, and we'll have a Disney themed week too. So just to try and keep things interesting and something to look forward to. Another group that you do have to join, again, for the safety of all the participants and people watching. Let me know if there's any questions, or please interrupt if you have a question. Our Facebook groups are all fall under the umbrella of our COVID Recovery Iowa Facebook page. So you can go to our COVID Recovery Iowa Facebook page, and then there's a list of all kinds of groups that you can join if you're interested. They're not all child related. There's a variety of groups to fit a variety of needs. So if you have an interest in food and cooking is something that brings you joy, you might want to join the cooking group, because you'll find a lot of people that are interested in that, and sharing their photos, and just a way to provide each other some happiness and support during the pandemic. But there's a veterans group on there. There's a coping during COVID times group on there for adults.
Pets. Our four-legged friends is one of the most popular. People are just sharing pictures of their pets. It's great.
Yeah.
Also crafts. You can do a craft and share a picture, or get ideas for new crafts to do.
Another group we have on there is our workforce resources page. We have in that group on Mondays, they post a Mindfulness Mondays activity to help us just stay focused. And on Tuesday, there's a teacher tip Tuesday. Kelly's posts some useful information. She's a teacher, a Montessori teacher, and so she tries to pull together some useful information for teachers on Tuesday. The last couple of weeks, we've been sharing some of our YouTube channel books, and I'll get to that later. But so sometimes we share information from our YouTube channel on teacher tips, because we think that those books and those activities that we're putting on YouTube are useful for teachers too. Workforce Wednesday, and then Thankful for Childcare Thursdays. Michelle takes care of those posts, and she's got a degree in child development, and she's working for COVID Recovery Iowa right now, and her sister is a preschool teacher, so she provides a lot of really good information on there on Thursdays. And Fun Fridays, Casey, she's a teacher too, and working for COVID Recovery Iowa as well. And she tries to end the week on a positive note for all you teachers and anybody that's in this Workforce Resources Facebook page. So if you're looking for positive support and useful information, you might want to join that page or that group. So our YouTube channel, this is what that looks like. My main focus on the YouTube channel is putting books on there, and they are mental health related type books. So they usually have an underlying message with them. So we have some that are on there for pandemic related purposes. Good Morning Zoom is one example of that. Not Forever, but For Now. Paul and the Pandemic is another. And I Was Born During a Global Pandemic. And then Invisible String is kind of about anxiety, but it also touches on grief and loss, which we know a lot of people are dealing with right now. And Pandemic for Babies, it's not a book for babies, it's a book for anyone, but it's got a lot of really good vocabulary words if you want to help yourself or a child or anyone in between to kind of learn those words to help them better understand the pandemic and what's going on so they can ask questions. That's a good book for that. So you can go to youtube.com and search for COVID Recovery Iowa, or you can just click on that link right there. But if you subscribe to the channel, then you'll be alerted every time we add a new book. And our goal is to add two books each week. I think we were up to about 50 books the last I checked. So we'll have many, many more that we'll put on there. before the grant is done. And then, so sometimes our energies as folks that work with children can feel pretty depleted when we have our own stresses going on, and when we're just having to worry about the cleanliness, or whether the mask is over the nose, or all these extra stressors. Sometimes you just don't have anything left as far as when it comes to creativity and trying to do something new. So we created this part of the YouTube channel with that in mind, for anybody that works with children, teachers and counselors and parents and caregivers and grandparents. We thought this would be useful, especially if you have to do things virtually, and you can't sit there next to them and read a story. You can play a story together over Zoom or whatever platform you're using. You can play the story, and then you can talk about the story. You can pause it at any time, just like as if you were reading a book. So if they had a question, page 2, you could pause it and then talk about it and then play it again. But we also created activities to go with the books. So again, back to that, if you're just feeling like there's not enough activities that are doable right now, and maybe you're trying to get your kids off their devices, you could play this book, and then there's an activity to go with it. Like for Good Morning Zoom, it's draw or write what you missed the most versus what you enjoy the most about this more virtual world that we're in. The Not Forever But For Now book has a squirt bottle activity with it, so you can test out what does 6 feet actually look like. So you could pretend the squirt bottle is like a sneeze, and what does 6 feet look like, and how far away should you stay before you get wet with the water. You might not want to do that outside right now. Paul in the Pandemic has a draw a door, and then the words to go with that, it's about draw a door, and then can you tell me, where does that door take you? If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go? If that door opened up to anywhere, where would you like to go? Just a good conversation starter. I was born during a global pandemic. We've had people on staff. One is home with their newborn right now, and we have another staff person who is newly pregnant. And so she came up with this idea for an activity to go with I Was Born During a Global Pandemic, and that was to create a time capsule and put some things in that time capsule that she could then share with her child when they got older, just to tell her about the experience of being born in a pandemic and how unique it was, and what was it like. So and then Invisible String, I talked to you a little bit about that one, about it touches on anxiety and a little bit about grief and loss. And then, but to make it fun, it's a very nice book. It's not sad and depressing. All of these books are very well written, I think, especially this one. And the activity to go with it is play a good old-fashioned game of telephone. So take 2 cups and a long string, and then, can you hear each other if you stood 20 feet apart from each other? Just for fun, just a fun activity. Pandemics for Babies, draw a picture of your family doing something together and include yourself. And so it's an opportunity to talk about what would you like to be doing? Maybe what do you miss doing that we used to do? So I know that there's more than 49 books on there now. There's over 50. So, and there'll be many, many more. Any questions about that? I don't think I said how to access the activity. So you go to the story on our YouTube channel, and then under the description, it says show more. So you have to click on show more to see more, to see the activity. It's a step that I wish we didn't have to do, but that's the way YouTube works. So any questions about those activities? So Children's Story Hour, and I think I get to meet with you all again in March. And so I want you to keep this in mind, because I have 2 options of what I could do the next time we get together. And that is to go into more detail and show you exactly how to do one of these story hours. That the idea of the story hour is to give children the tools to ask questions and talk about the pandemic if and when they need to, in a child-friendly way. So So it's read some stories and then it's play a little Pictionary game and ask questions about what they've heard and what they've seen and what they've felt during the pandemic. So I can go into detail about that the next time, give some examples and show you how to do it with the children that you work with. Or you can also watch this YouTube channel and kind of get an idea of how to do it yourself too, either way. Or if you want me to come into wherever you work and do this story hour for the children that you work with, I'd be happy to do that. I'm a children's counselor, so I promise I can be silly and engaging, and I've had a lot of practice over the last year of interacting with kids virtually, so it's doable. So if you'd like me to come in and do the story hour virtually, I'd be happy to do that. Or you can watch this YouTube channel and you can use our books on our YouTube channel to do the story hour with the children. But it's read a couple books. We have a coloring activity that we can either email to you or we can actually mail it to you because we have some hard copies. And then it's a Pictionary game over Zoom. If you've ever used the whiteboard on Zoom, that's how I do it when I do it virtually. So I'll draw a picture of an eye on the whiteboard and have the kids guess what that is, which then leads to the conversation. We have, and if anybody's from the Altoona area, we have a story hour coming up at the Altoona Library next week at noon. We've done one at the Cedar Falls Library. We've done one at the Hudson, Iowa Library. The Avoca Library, we also did one. And sometimes in some libraries, we do it live and then they delete it immediately, but some keep it kind of streaming on their Facebook page for you to go back to and watch the story hour whenever you want. So if you're from any of those areas, you could check out your local library's Facebook page or website. Here's what the coloring book looks like. So the Core Defenders one, I think I wouldn't go any younger than 5 with that one. It's got, I mean, you could certainly do it, but it would require a lot of interactive, some of that's just older for older children. But then we have some coloring sheets too, if you wanted me to email those to you, that are for younger kids that can help spark conversation about the pandemic. And, you know, kids are really good about just rolling along and maybe having a meltdown here or there, and you don't really know why. And it might be that they just have a question or a worry about something that you were totally unaware of. And so sometimes just giving them opportunity to be able to talk about it, even if it's just using a coloring sheet, can be really helpful. So we have a parent support group that happens every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. So any parents that you're working with, you can send that way. It's just meant for a way for parents to connect. There's a lot of young parents that have joined on that. It's just a conversation to talk about what they're dealing with in regards to life and the pandemic and anything in between. It's led by two moms, and Tuesdays 7 to 8 p.m. And Chelsea is one of our moms that's out on maternity leave. So there's 2 other moms that are leading this group right now. But you can just send me an email if you have a parent that you'd like to join in on that. We'd happily give you the Zoom link for that. But my email address, I think I put it at the end, but it's mandy.guessme@pathwaysb.org. So the same ending as Chelsea's there. It's just Mandy with a y.guessme@pathwaysb.org. But I'm pretty sure I put it at the end too. So that's that. We also have a teen support group and a preteen support group. I know that's probably not exactly the age group that you work with, but there's always, siblings and people grow up. And so if you're still connected with anybody in those age groups, I run the preteen support group right now, and that's mostly 10-year-olds right now. And they're from all over Iowa. And it's so fun to see the interactions and then just talking about the differences and in the way things are going in their communities. It's a really fun, unique opportunity. So, and I don't think I went into too much detail about Instagram, But we do have, if anybody's interested, there's a 30-day fitness program that we do on our Instagram account. And there's also this kind of thought-provoking journal prompt type thing that we do on Instagram too, where we read a little note on rocks. It's either, it's kind of like kindness rocks. So we either write courage or care or I am hopeful for ... And I know Instagram tends to be a younger crowd, and so we're trying to connect with teens in that way, but anybody that's on Instagram. And then the fitness challenge, there's still a lot of exercise programs that are closed or only partially open because of the pandemic. And so that the exercise program came about from that. And Caitlin's latest, she does a good job making it fun. Her latest one is all dance moves. So if that interests you or interests any of the kids that you work with, I have a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 13-year-old. And we're finding that pretty entertaining to learn a different dance move every day. So that's pretty fun. Here's our numbers again. I'll just go over the covidrecoveryiowa.org is the website. People can submit requests for assistance on there. They just fill out a brief little form and they can say things like, I am in need of personal support. I'm in need of activities for my children, which could mean that they need mental health support. They might put on there that they need rental assistance, whatever it is. That's how that website submission thing works. And then Facebook, like I said, that's where you can find all kinds of supportive groups. Then our Instagram is another way to get information. We have a weekly newsletter that comes out. If you wanted to give me your email address, we can sign you up to receive that weekly newsletter. It has information on there like which counties right now are having the hardest time with COVID numbers. It has information about our groups that are going on and just ways to reach us, I guess. So that's a good source of information. And then we have Twitter, and then the warm line. Again, that's 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. And that's a way to reach any of our counselors too. It's very similar to the process as far as the website submission. If you were to call the warm line and just say, I'm having a hard time, I need somebody to talk to, then you would get connected with one of our COVID Recovery Iowa staff. And there's also the Iowa Concern Hotline. That's 1-800-447-1985. I'm going to put in the chat my email. Because I didn't see it on the end. So you can email me if you have anybody that you'd like to refer to one of the support groups, or just for more information, or if you want to send me your email address and then I can get you on that newsletter if that interests you. And are there any questions? It's 3:35 and I think you can go till 4, so maybe then I could show how to do that story hour today. And then the next time we meet, maybe we could do a self-care session, because some of the things, that's one of the ways we've been connecting with people is trying to help our helpers and doing some self-care sessions. So maybe that would be of interest to you. We can plan that later, but
we
A
have
lot of the flyers that were showing up on Mandy's PowerPoint, we have as flyers. And so that's, if you want to order any of those flyers, we can email the PDF to you and you can print them out and hang them up, or just print them out and use for your own use, or email them to other people. So that's what you can use my email address to order. That's the COVID Recovery Iowa email address.
if anybody has questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, but then I'll share with you how to do a story hour today, since we have enough time.
A couple other things while Mandy's getting that set up. The grant now includes people who are suffering from the derecho as well as the pandemic. We just kind of wrapped those funds into the one grant, but it's kind of all one big messy package. Messy, but our feelings are one big messy glob. And then all of our services are free. I think Mandy probably mentioned that, but that's the thing that's very cool about it. These are free services.
Free services that we are happy and have plenty of people that are here and ready. We have 100 people on staff. So we are here and ready to help anybody that might need it, and happy to do so. And our staff just love, they just love helping people. So, and finding resources for people. And so, we're here for anyone. So our YouTube channel, here's what it looks like. And then, I have to admit that, I'm 42 years old. I feel like I'm not that old, but I was not technically savvy before the pandemic, and the pandemic has put me in the position of understanding YouTube a little better, Instagram a little better. I know how to run a Zoom meeting, it's Facebook. I know more about Facebook than would ever have wanted to know, but they're necessary tools for connecting with people during a pandemic. So I value them now more than I ever did. And I'm feeling pretty proud at 42 that I know how to do some of these things. So if you've never done any of this, I have I think I have two. I have 2 subscriptions now on YouTube. Before I had none, and one is to my church and one is to COVID Recovery Iowa. So I can tell you, if I fully share this, I think it will see the subscribe button. Oh yeah, so it's over here. If you just click on subscribe. Oh man, I have that sun coming in nice and good. Okay, so then
we did have a question come into the chat, and it's from Heidi, and she says, for the story hours, do you have publicity and sponsorship materials to help promote if we work with a local library to host?
So mostly the libraries have taken care of, they just like to know far enough in advance, and then they promote it on their website and their Facebook page. If, we haven't gone the route of a press release for a story hour, but maybe we could. We've done press releases for a lot of other things. So maybe we could help in that way, if that's what you have in mind. But otherwise, I think all the other ones, I give them all the materials, and then they post it on either their Facebook page or website and promote it in that way. And I have had some libraries that I've talked to as far as doing story hours say things like, we're not having great attendance at our virtual whatever. And but we just work through that. And, sometimes it takes more than once, and sometimes just doing it pre-recorded and having it accessible there whenever is a route to go. There was one that I think it was the Cedar Falls one that it looked like it had, I joined in on it when it was pre-recorded, and when they played it, it looked like there was 11 or so people that watch it live. If we reach 11 people in one story hour, that's great. That's 11 people that might not have been reached otherwise. So, and I'll show you how to do that story hour, so you know what it entails. But then I went back and looked again, and it had 664 views. So I guess I don't know how exactly Cedar Falls went about their promoting of it, other than on what I saw on their website. But that we could ask them how they went about it, and if that would be helpful. So if you don't have the books on hand, which I have a lot of books. I have this very book, Paul and the Pandemic, on hand. It's just not on the top of my stack right now, but otherwise I would show you. But when I do them myself, I read the hard copy just because I feel like that's the most engaging. But we have other staff that have done story hours too, and we can't. COVID Recovery Iowa uses our own resources in that we play these books on YouTube because we can't afford to put these books in all of our staff's hands. I would love that, but that would be very costly. So we put them on the YouTube channel, which we consulted a lawyer back in June about how to, whether this violated any copyright or anything. And what we were told was that as long as our intention was reading the story to children and we gave credit when credit was due, then we were not violating copyright laws. So we're sticking with that, and hoping that that's true. And it's been a blessing, just a good way to be able to share the books and utilize them with the kids that benefit from them. So I'm holding off on clicking on this because usually as soon as I click on it, it starts to play. So click on the book that you want to play, Paul and the Pandemic.
A pandemic?
If you'll notice, has had 4,297 views. So it is definitely one of our most popular books that we have on here and that we use the most. This little button across here, I apparently started playing it and stopped at 1:03 there. But you can make it be full screen too, to make it as big as possible, depending on the device you're using. That's helpful. And then you can push
Funny
play.
Story, brought to you by COVID Recovery Iowa.
And you can pause it and then at any time too. And so if you wanted to talk about something in the middle of the book, I'll play some of it because it's a very sweet book.
Big house with a bright yellow door. The bright yellow door was always open for friends to come in and play. Paula was especially happy when her best friend Ben came to play. Paula didn't see Ben in a while. Where was Ben? Paula went outside and saw him at the window of his house. I can't play with you, Paula. My daddy says we need to stay home so that Granny won't get sick.
I'll just pause it there, but you can go back and listen to the rest of it. And then I'll show you that down here, here's the description of the book. And then if you click on show more, there's the activity to go with the books. So Paula experienced a closed door during the pandemic. Draw and decorate a door, discuss what the door might open to. And if the door could open to anywhere or anything, where would that be? It's just a good way to find out what kids are missing without saying, what are you missing? Because sometimes they might be quick to say like, nothing, everything's fine. So I just use some of these books in this little preteen group that I run for 10-year-olds. So I just feel like children's books are appropriate for all ages, adults too. So, okay, I'll show you some of the other books so that's one I would read for a story hour or play for a story hour. And then Good Morning Zoom is a good one, but it's kind of, I like that if I know that in that area they're doing a lot of virtual learning, because that's kind of what, it was a really good one as far as in the spring and in the summer, we're talking about just everything being on Zoom, but it's a good book too. And then we gotta move our pictures. Here's the book with no pictures, read by Ashton Kutcher. That's the one that if you need a good laugh, it's funny. If you have any little ones around you, you should play that for them, because lo and behold, he does a good job reading a book and making you laugh. Imagine that. Okay, so here's another way. So these are, as you can see, it says most popular. And then if you click on playlist, I promise you, I did not know this before this COVID Recovery Iowa position, because so we have all our celebrity readings. If you wanted to get to them, that's how you do that. There's all 6 of those. And then the book playlist has, I clicked on the wrong thing, has all of just all 50 of the books. And so another one that I would play for the story hour would be, the E-Ninja is really good if you have virtual learners too. Would be the Not Forever, But For Now. That's another one I tend to read. Because if you've taken this question from many kids before, they want to know when the pandemic's going to be over. And do we know?
As to the situation.
Of course we don't know, and it's a really hard and repetitive question that parents and childcare providers and teachers have to deal with every day. I can't tell you how many times my 5-year-olds asked me, so I know. But so Not Forever, But For Now is just a good reminder of someday it'll be over. We just don't know for sure when that will be. And here's again that show more. Trying to think if there's anything in this book that I'd like to play, but you can check it out now that you know how to access it.
About the changes in their daily lives. They miss going to school. and they miss playing with friends.
Okay, so I would do those 2 stories for my story hour. And then I'm going to show you how to access the whiteboard if you've never done that before. So I just hit share screen, and one of the options on my Zoom account is to have a whiteboard, which I have found that not everyone actually has that option, and I don't really fully understand that, but if you do, and you want to connect with somebody virtually, whether it's grandkids or you want to do a home visit with someone and you know they have COVID going on, this might be an option. So I would get out the whiteboard, and this is really, you can play tic-tac-toe on this with grandparents. Ask me how I know that. We've done that because we have grandparents that live in South Dakota and we have not seen them. So we play some tic-tac-toe. But I'll, for the story hour, would draw this. And then I'd say, okay, so what is this? Some days my drawing skills are better on the whiteboard than others. So some days they're like, I don't know. And then I say, well, it's supposed to be an eye. And so then I say, well, what have you seen with your eyes during the pandemic that maybe you haven't seen before? And then I usually have a few benign things in my pocket, like, well, I have watched the news a lot more often. Or, well, I'm working from home right now, so I get to see my cats a lot more often. Or I see my neighbors come and go a lot more often. And then I draw a picture of, this one's really tricky, but it makes for entertainment. You don't have to be an artist. I'll say, what is that? And that one, oftentimes people don't know. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to draw an ear, but it's supposed to be an ear. So what have you heard with your ears during the pandemic that maybe you haven't heard before? Have you heard your mom or your dad upset? Have there been more tears at your house? Have you heard the news playing over and over again? Have you heard your dog barking or the neighbor's dog barking because you're home more often? Whatever it might be. And then I'll do, for the last one I do, you'd think this would be the easiest to draw, but so then I say, well, so what is that? And then, well, it's supposed to be a hand. So what have you felt with your hand during the pandemic? Oh, I say, well, there's 2 ways to feel things. We feel things physically with our hand, and we feel things on the inside with our heart. So then I say, well, what have you felt with your hands physically during the pandemic that maybe you haven't felt before? I always say, well, I have felt a lot of hand sanitizers everywhere I go. I've felt some that are sticky, some that are slimy, some that are smelly. It's not really a feel thing, but some are definitely smelly, some that are foamy, some that are runny, some that have shot across the floor on accident. So I felt a lot of hand sanitizers during the pandemic, and that is not something I was used to doing before. But so then the other way that we can feel things is on the inside. So what have you felt on the inside during the pandemic that maybe you didn't feel before? And this is an opportunity to just let them know that no matter what they're feeling, it's okay. You can feel absolutely anything. Maybe you're feeling a little happy because you get to spend more time with your family. Maybe you have anxiety and you're perfectly content spending a lot of time at home. And so maybe this has brought some joy to you. Maybe you're sad because you don't get to see grandparents. Maybe you're sad because you don't get as many play dates with your friends. Maybe you're annoyed because you hate wearing a mask. Some kids, it doesn't bother at all. My 5-year-old will get home from school and she forgets to take it off. She's so used to it. So, but whatever they're feeling, it's okay. There's a lot of variety out there, and maybe they're angry. Maybe this is one of the reasons it's good to talk about it, because maybe they think it's somebody's fault. Maybe they think the pandemic was caused by someone or something. And so this is an opportunity to talk about it. But whatever they're feeling, it's okay. And that's usually where I hand out then the, make sure that they have the coloring activity if they want it, whether we email it to them or whether we've mailed it to them. The libraries, a lot of them are still doing that curbside pickup. So they'll just make the stack of coloring books available to people that want to stop in and grab them. That is all I've got. Any questions about that? There is a way to do, I don't know if you're all aware of this, but I was talking about the the doing tic-tac-toe, and there is a way to, you have to click on annotate. I wouldn't click on it, but Christy would click on it, or whoever you're connecting with on Zoom. If the other person clicks on annotate under views on Zoom, then you can both write on there. But you have to do that in order for, like, so if I were to make the tic-tac-toe board and I drew my X, in order for Grandpa to do the O, he has to click on that annotate button to be able to write, but that makes it fun and interactive. So I have, in my little preteen support group, we have gone back and forth and played some Pictionary in that way, just to learn how to use that tool, and then they can use that with other people.
I love the use of the whiteboard. I never thought about using that. And I don't know if we even have it available. I'm anxious to see.
Good. Yeah, do you know anything about that, Christy? Like, I do know I've worked with a couple of people that don't have that whiteboard option, and I really didn't have a good answer for them, but most do, but I'm
I've
not sure.
never seen that before, actually. So you were kind of taking me for a spin when you were pulling up the whiteboard and showing us how to do all of that. I thought that was really cool. I was like, wow, I didn't, you learn something new every day. I have seen where people will do jam boards, and then they'll share the link, and then everybody can access it at once. And I've seen it done that way. I haven't seen it done through the whiteboard before, though. Oh, and we do have a comment come in. It's from Lori. She says, I think this was one of our best snacking chairs.
Oh man, that's a very nice compliment. Thank you. I just wanted to give you all some tools that I hope you can use. That's what we've made them for. So.
And then Joanne says, I agree. And Christy says, thank you for all of these resources. I will definitely be using these with my families.
Awesome.
I've really enjoyed it as well. Will the links be sent in an email?
How?
Yeah, so I only have access to the large scale distribution list. And to send links to 524 people might get a little confusing for the ones who weren't able to attend. So one thing that I can do, actually, let me pull this, well, let me enter my email address here for you guys. And then Mandy, if you wanted to send those links to me or add .iowa.gov, there we go. If you wanted, what we can do this two ways. So you can send the links to me. So anyone who reaches out to me via email, I can just shoot those off to them right away. Or we can put your email information back into the chat function again. And then if people have any additional conversations or questions or things like that, then they can reach out to you directly that way. Really, I'm okay with whatever way you guys want. I just want to make sure that everybody's able to access the content that was shared here today. So I'm going to add mine in. And then
I put mine in earlier, but I'll put it in again, but just email me if anything that you want in particular. I'm thinking about Barb created a flyer. Barb created a flyer, and I'm thinking that would have a lot of the links on it and could go out to all 524, whether they attended or not.
okay.
I'll make sure you get that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Perfect.
Barb might have had to leave.
Yeah, I think she had to take off, but yes, if you send me that, then I can send out a large blast with that flyer on it to all of the folks within the state of Iowa, because even if they weren't in attendance, then they probably still could look at the flyer and use that as a reference content. Not so much if I'm just sending random links to them, though. They'd probably be like, what is the spam? So I will go on ahead and do that as soon as you get that to me.
Sounds good.
Yep. Any other
Thank
questions?
you.
I don't see.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And thanks for your work with children. I fully understand that it's been a I can't say unique year anymore because that's only 21 days, but the pandemic has really presented us with a lot of challenges, but we're doing all right. So thank you for all your hard work.
Awesome. Thank you, Mandy.
All right, take
right.
care.
Bye, guys.